I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. I want you to meet Jared Roberts. There's Jared. Jared is a second-year associate who represents Donald Trump. He works for a firm called the Banal Law Group, and Jared Roberts came after MeidasTouch, where we did a report saying Jared Roberts, back in July, was one of the lawyers who filed a very frivolous motion. It's called a motion for an indicative ruling to try to revive a lawsuit that Donald Trump and his lawyer, Alina Habba, had filed against Hillary Clinton and 32 other defendants for civil RICO claims and various other causes of action, where the federal judge in the Southern District of Florida not only dismissed that lawsuit, but said it was so frivolous and brought in such bad faith that Trump and Habba, who brought the lawsuit, were sanctioned close to $1 million for bringing the frivolous case. And so I said, Jared Roberts is now filing a motion to revive the frivolous case that was dismissed and where there were massive sanctions. On what basis is he doing that? And in the motion, Roberts was seeking this motion for an indicative ruling because he said the John Durham report led to a stratospheric change and it proved all of the claims that Donald Trump was making. And I was scratching my head and I was saying, that's not what the John Durham report even says. If you actually read the 300-page plus John Durham report, it makes no recommendations at all for changes in the FBI or the Department of Justice. And John Durham, this special counsel appointed by Bill Barr to attack Donald Trump's political enemies, Durham had 2 prosecutions that went to jury trial. Durham lost both. Just think about that. So whereas Merrick Garland's Department of Justice has prosecuted now, charged over 1,000 insurrectionists, and they haven't lost a single jury trial, in the 2 jury trials that John Durham took to trial, he lost both, like super quickly as the jury rejected those claims. So Durham was 0 for 2. And then in the report, Durham just says there should have been a preliminary investigation by the FBI instead of a formal inquiry taking place right away. But there's no recommendations that people be criminally charged. I mean, it's a nothing burger on top of a nothing burger masquerading as something. And when John Durham testified before the House of Representatives, even Matt Gaetz said that he was a failure and his report was a failure. In any event, Jared Roberts says the Durham report, stratospheric change. We need to revive the lawsuit where Trump's already been sanctioned $1 million. And so I said, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing there, second-year associate? Like, what is it that you're going to throw away your reputation because MAGA? I mean, dude, you're supposed to be a member of the bar. Like, act like a professional. But, if you go through his posts, just take a look at this. So at Jared Roberts' post, the president is back. Here's the mugshot. Just think about that behavior of this person's a member of the bar. The president's back. And he posts a photo of the mugshot. This is what Jared Roberts also posts. Can't wait for Trump to win the presidency a 3rd time in 2024. A third time. I mean, what a clown this second-year associate is. It's no offense to clowns. And by the way, he's bringing a very bad reputation to lawyers in general. What are you doing? Okay, then he reposts this account, Swig, Old Rose Swig. And Donald Trump says, I won the election. This is a post Trump made November 15th, 2020. I just want you to think about it. Before the insurrection, it's like evidence of Donald Trump's criminal intent. This is evidence of Donald Trump's just complete detachment also from like law and order and objective reality. And then the post says, this post was fact checked by real American patriots. It's just stupid. And this is what Jared Roberts said about us when I did the report back on July 30th of 2023. And I just said, hey, I think it's a bad move to bring a motion for an indicative ruling on something where Trump's been sanctioned over or close to $1 million already, And the Durham report doesn't say anything that you say it does because I read it and anybody could read it, and we watched the hearings. And as I mentioned, even Matt Gaetz attacked Durham and said, even Matt Gaetz, who I would assume is someone who Jared Roberts idolizes, attacked Durham for not doing what the Republicans wanted Durham to do. So it didn't surprise me when the federal judge Middlebrooks issued a scathing order against Jared Roberts, against Trump's lawyers' legal team in general, which Roberts is one of the lawyers on that legal team. And so the order on the motion for indicative ruling, this is what the judge says. He goes, on May 12, 2023, Special Counsel John Durham submitted his report on matters related to intelligence activities and investigation arising out of the 2016 presidential campaign. Plaintiff and his lawyers tout the report as newly discovered evidence, and they now ask me to reconsider my previous rulings. But far from seismically, I said stratospheric, seismically, but far from seismically altering the legal landscape of this case, the Durham report changes nothing, nor could it really. Even if the Durham report uncovered the sort of vast conspiracy alleged by plaintiff, it plainly did not. It would not change the many legal conclusions I made in the order dismissing plaintiff's lawsuit. And whatever the Durham report can be said to have uncovered for purposes of this case, it does not change my findings that movements acted in bad faith in bringing this lawsuit, and that this case exemplifies Mr. Trump's history of abusing the judicial process. Therefore, for the reasons set forth below, plaintiff and his lawyer's motion for indicative ruling based upon new evidence is denied. Then Judge Middlebrooks goes through his prior orders, which I did in the previous YouTube video I made back in July of 2022. By the way, if you look at that previous video I did rather in July of 2023, go back and look at the video I did. The analysis is very similar to what Judge Middlebrooks ultimately ruled. And Middlebrooks says, on September 8, 2022, in a 65-page order, I dismissed plaintiff's amended complaint with prejudice as to all non-federal defendants. Given the frivolous nature of this case, I reserve jurisdiction to adjudicate issues pertaining to sanctions. On November 10, 2022, I granted defendant Dolan's motion for sanctions for $66,000, and then I granted the motion for the other defendant sanctions for $938,000 in sanctions. The court goes on to say in the discussion section, the Durham report is not newly discovered evidence because a party cannot discover something that did not exist at the time of the trial or hear the final orders. Movements also do not point to a single fact in the report that even with due diligence, they failed to discover. To the extent that plaintiff can pluck out arguably favorable sounding facts from the report that may have some conceivable tie-in to his conclusory allegations, that doesn't affect the many legal conclusions set forth in my motion to dismiss order. I highlight some here, and this is what the court reminds Donald Trump and his lawyers of. That Trump's amended complaint is a quintessential shotgun pleading, and courts in the 11th Circuit have little tolerance for shotgun pleadings. It goes on to say, plaintiff has not alleged that defendants aimed any conduct at Florida or could reasonably have anticipated plaintiff would be harmed in Florida. Plaintiff's allegations compel only one logical conclusion, that plaintiff was aware of the factual basis underlying his RICO claims since at least October 2017, if not earlier, thus placing his RICO claims outside of the 4-year statute of limitations. And the court goes on and lists all the legal rulings that he made about why, even if there were arguably favorable sounding things that can be plucked from the Durham report, it doesn't matter. That's what I said in the video I did back in July as well. And then the court says, lastly, I found that this case is part of Mr. Trump's pattern of misusing the courts to serve a political purpose, the telltale signs being provocative and boastful rhetoric, a political narrative carried over from rallies, attacks on political opponents and the news media, disregard for legal principles and precedent, and fundraising and payments to lawyers from political action committees. So you see the order right there. Also, one of the things Trump lawyers tried to do is ask Middlebrooks to recuse himself again, to try to disqualify himself from being the judge. They tried that back in April of 2022, which I pointed out as well in the video I did in July of 2023. I said that you've done that. He's rejected that before, and it was on completely frivolous grounds here. And again, Middlebrooks is like, this is a bunch of nonsense and totally and utterly without merit. So, Jared Roberts, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Look, I don't know if this cosplay MAGA stuff is, I guess it's fun. You know, I guess it's fun for you, but I don't know. It's quite embarrassing for lawyers to behave that way. That's my own opinion, but you do you, Jared. You do you. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Have a great day.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.